Hello everyone, this is Leslie from Wall to Wall Vinyl and it's Tutorial Tuesdays. Today we have a really fun project that we will be working on. We will be doing pressing some tumblers as well as some coffee cups today, and then we will be talking about what we can do to enhance our packaging with these products as well as some of our other physical products. As you know, things are becoming oversaturated in our market, so we've got to find ways that help us stand out in that market. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to just move you down so you can see my work area, and as you can see, I've got my little friend over there sleeping away in his bed. So if you hear snoring, it's the dog. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about is the way that we package our items. So we're going to start, as you can see, this is just a mug box, and I will send the links to these. I'll attach them to the files section in the Wall to Wall Vinyl group. But what we're going to start with, these are a little bit more complicated than the tumbler boxes, but nevertheless they still work, and it still is a nice way to package your product and make it look a little bit more professional. So to start out, you need an X-Acto knife, and what we're going to do, as you can see on these, there are seams. There's a seam here and there's a seam here, and we're just going to very carefully open up those seams. So you just slide your X-Acto knife in the corner where that opens up, and it may look a little bit rough when you see it undone, and that's okay. At first it's a little alarming. You think, what am I doing? But once we cover it up, you won't. Once we glue it all back together, you won't even notice. So just go ahead and open up that seam. And the reason we do this is so that we can get the box to lay flat on the heat press. And I like to do this on the under seam so that you don't see tearing and whatnot on the above seam. So sometimes you have to come through the middle just to get that one corner off. And some of these are a little bit easier than others, but it's the same process. The tumbler boxes do not have this glue on the bottom like this, so they're a little bit easier to work with. But as you can see, it looks a little bit alarming, but you won't even see that once we get it put back together. You won't see that. So let me get this other side. So again, I'm going to come in where there's already an opening in the seam. Just be very careful. These X-Acto knives are sharp. And I don't know how many of you started with vinyl first, but an X-Acto knife has always been my go-to tool. And it's continued to be even with sublimation. All right, so now we've opened up our bottom so that we can get this to lay flat. Now we need to open up this side part. So if you can, get it to open so that you don't take too much of your cardboard. That is the preference, because that lack of cardboard on the back, so that should be just great. But you don't want to take too much of the inner cardboard because that's going to create an interference with your pressure. But now we've got a flat object that we can lay flat underneath our press. And I've started my big clamshell press heating up first. And then after, unfortunately in my room, in here. I can't have both presses running at the same time. They draw too much energy and it will trip my breaker. So we're going to get these ones done. And then the tumbler press just takes just a second to heat up. So we'll do that after. And while that's heating up, we'll go ahead and get all of our boxes put together. So same thing, except the good thing about these boxes, like I was saying, is that they don't have the glue on the bottom. So that makes it a lot easier. So we're going to find right here is the seam on this one. So we're just going to come in at the top and very lightly just slide this down and break that seal with the glue. So there you go, and you've got your flat box that you are going to be able to press on. So what we're going to do is we're going to use laminate. This is a little bit easier for me, and the laminate sleeves I know that you can get through Amazon, whatnot, aren't going to be big enough for this. And so I just bought a roll of laminate, and I will attach the link for where I got it. You can get the glossy or you can get matte. With the laminate, I'm always a big fan of using products that are coated specifically for sublimation. So over time, the images on this can start to blur. But if you're using them for like packaging, then you're okay to use this because a lot of people don't keep their packaging around for years and years and years. So I have already pre-cut, and when you cut this, what you're going to want to do is measure from here to the seam. You can go over just a little bit, but that's going to be hidden, as you can see from your corner. So I go from this corner all the way to the seam, and then from the top of the box to the bottom of the box. So I've already pre-cut all of my pre-cut my laminate. So I've got 2 sheets of laminate. We're going to be doing 2 mugs and 2 tumblers. So there's my mug wrap, or my box wrap for my mug, and my box wraps for my tumblers. So let's go ahead and move over to the heat press. And I will be pressing at 385 degrees for about 15 to 20 seconds to get the laminate firmly attached to the mug, and then I'll go the full 60 seconds to convert my image or print my image over. So first of all, I'm going to put this on. Take this sticker off. And I'm just going to press the box so it's a little easier to use. You don't need heavy pressure, just light to medium pressure for this. And I'm just going to go just a couple seconds on this. So I did about 10. But then you can see my box is a little bit less unruly, and I'm able to line stuff up a little better. So with this laminate, you'll see that one side's quite shiny, one side's duller. The dull side is what has the adhesive on it. So I'm just going to make sure that this lines up and covers everything really well. And don't fret if you do want to make sure that the box is covered, but don't fret if it hangs over a little bit, because you can trim it after you're done. So I've, trimmed it as close as I can, but I'm not going to get super concerned if everything's just not lined up just perfectly, because I'm going to trim it a little bit more after the fact. And clearly that was cut for the other side. That is the hard thing about pre-cutting all of your things, is that sometimes you lose track of which ones are for which. So then I'm going to just go ahead and lightly lay my blowout paper over. And then I'm going to let this heat for about 20 seconds. Just long enough to get a good firm seal, but we don't need to let it go for a long, long time. So my laminate looks great. And now I'm just going to get my transfer. So I am doing mugs with the tiger on it. So I am going to make sure that, and I did do these just a little bit bigger just so I can make sure that it fits well. And then just make sure that your top and your bottom are lined up. And I am going to do the full 60 seconds here. And again, I'm doing 385 degrees to transfer my image. This is a really good way, and it's a pretty simple way to be able to really make your material stand out. I don't know about you guys, but when I go to a boutique or I go to Hobby Lobby, well, Hobby Lobby's not a great, but if I go to, I don't know what you guys have in your areas. We have a great big boutique. It's called the Quilted Bear in our area. And when I go there, I know that when things are really prettily packaged, they stand out a lot more. And so some of these things that might take a couple extra seconds of your time really will make your work stand out amongst all of those that are doing the exact same kind of projects that you are. So we're just going to pull that off, and now you can see that I have the image that I put on, and if it sticks, that's okay. That's not going to matter, but you can see I have the image that I'm going to put on my mug. Now on my box that I'm going to put this in, and it's going to add a really, really nice extra layer to what I'll be doing. So we're going to do one more of these. And I'm going to switch out my blowout paper because I did have some ink gassing onto that. And I want to make sure that doesn't transfer. And again, we'll go ahead and start this just by flattening our box so that it's not quite so unruly. And best practice, I did not just do. Best practice would be to make sure that you have a paper over the top as well. And I did not do that, so I apologize. So I'm just going to make sure that my laminate is lined up nice, and then again I'm just going to go 15 to 20 seconds. The laminate can be a little bit finicky, and I found that if you go too long on the first setting, it can be a little bit finicky and bubble up a little bit. So I usually just do 15 to 20 seconds, and then it's going to continue to apply, and you can see it's laid nice and flat. There's not any bubbling, anything like that. So now we'll put our image on. And again, just make sure that your top is facing up and that you don't get that mixed up, because that does happen sometimes. If you feel a little bit more comfortable with it, you can lightly tape it down. I haven't found the need to do that, but you can. And then we're going to go ahead and let it go between 50 and 60 seconds. And then we'll do the same thing with our tumbler boxes. And it just adds a little bit. Then what I will do is I will put my sticker, my logo sticker, on the top. So we're about halfway there. And again, I'm doing 385 degrees for 50 to 60 seconds. And I've got light to medium pressure. I tell you this every time, and I'm going to sound like a broken record, but what I want you guys to really take to heart every time we do these tutorials is that you get to know your machine. Get to know your equipment, because your equipment's going to be a little bit different than mine in that it may run hotter, and it doesn't matter if it's the same brand. Sometimes there's little glitches that can make it a little bit different. So make sure you know your specific equipment. And then we're just going to go ahead and pull that transfer sheet off. And again, I've got my mug image now on my box. Now, does it have to be the image that you're putting on the mug? No, you could, if you wanted to really make it really, if you wanted to do something a little bit different, you could do your logo and do a fun design with your logo on it and do that. It's kind of your preference. This is more just about you seeing some new options and hopefully get the wheels going in your mind of some ways that you can increase your game with some new ideas. So again, just flattening my box out. You really don't need to do more than a couple of seconds, really. And now I'm going to line up my laminate. Make sure you do the shiny side up. The dull side is the side with the adhesive on it. So I'm going to let this just cool down for just a second. It's a little bit hot and it's causing the adhesive to start to work on the laminate, and I want to be able to really get this where I want it to lay. So while we were doing the tutorial tonight, I did want to talk to you about a few changes that will be coming to wall-to-wall vinyl. As most of you know, I, in my daytime job, am a nurse, and I've had some big changes come about, which I'm really excited for. I have worked before for a few years in the oncology patient population, and I will be returning to that. And I am so, so excited. One of the things that I am finding is where I do a job away as well as my side hustle or my business, trying to keep my family going and stay up with what I need to in my home, it's becoming a lot. And so I'm going to change things up a little bit. I will still be doing tutorials every Tuesday. I will be posting them. Now we're going to change the format a little bit. Instead of live tutorials, they will be pre-taped tutorials. And what I will encourage you guys to do is to, again, write in the comment, hashtag wall to wall. that first 48 hours, there will be a freebie that will be given to those who watch it, or hashtag rewind. And I would encourage you to throw your questions out, and I will make sure that I answer those. It may not be, I'm going to try to, if I have availability and maybe things aren't going, so much isn't going on with my family that night, then I will try to watch it live when you guys watch it. But there are going to be some nights that's going to be possible, and some nights it may not. So I have a customer that's obsessed with tigers, and so this is for her. And again, make sure that you're lining up your top versus your bottom so that your image is going to be correct. So I hope that you guys will still tune in and look forward to Tuesdays. Like I said, I will be posting a tutorial every Tuesday. It's just, it will be a little bit easier for me if I can do the tutorials when I'm pressing customer items, etc. And so they will be, it may not be live every single time. Sorry, you guys, I got to get my dog taken care of real quick. Go to your bed. Go on. Kennel, go on. Go to your bed. No, go to your bed. He thinks he owns the joint and insisted on being up here in my room, and it never fails. Every time I get into the first to something, he thinks it's time to come and play because he's not getting as much attention as I think he thinks he needs. All right, you guys, so same kind of thing. There's your design. And I love the way these looks with your boxes being white. It really allows the design to really pop. So there's that one. Let's do our last tumbler box. I kind of like them being able to see the image that they're getting on their tumbler and kind of build that excitement. But then, like I said, I would make sure I have my logo sticker on the top of the box, because you still need to make sure you're branding your business. But you could go a different route, like I was saying before, and come up with specific wraps for that for your business, and just have that be your image that you put on the boxes. So that's kind of up to you, but hopefully this is opening up your mind to some different ideas that you can use in your packaging. And then as you go to get some of your other products, maybe I'm trying to think like your ornament boxes and that. If they're these kind of boxes, you can do the same kind of idea with them. And I just happen to know an awesome lady that you can get your logo stickers from. I had Roxanne do mine, and I absolutely love them. So reach out to Roxanne and she can do your stickers for you. But definitely somewhere on any of your packaging, whether it be your outer boutique bags, you need to make sure that you have stickers, that you have your name. Branding is everything, you guys. So every time someone sees, for instance, I've left, if I've been at work or something, I've left stuff on my porch, and I had a USPS person contact me and she had gotten my name off a package that I had on my porch. So you never know who's going to see your logo, your name. This was for our doormat, and she ended up buying several of them. So that was a good little perk for my business. So make sure you're branding. So back to our conversation about Tuesdays. So Tuesdays will be tutorial Tuesdays. They'll just be a little bit different format. I'm using a streaming device that will also, when I have the opportunity, what I'm finding is I had my 16-year-old come to me the other day, and he was pretty sad because we were talking and I was checking my social media to see if anyone had messaged me, and he just expressed that he feels like I maybe am not as present as I should be. So I'm trying to find that balance between keeping everything going but still being present and there for him. So when there are times during Tuesday that I can, it will be a set time. I will release the talk about it or the tutorial Tuesday videos at 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time every Tuesday. So if I happen to be available at that time, then you bet I'm going to be watching it with you guys, answering any comments. But if not, no worries. I will make sure that I get any questions that are there answered. So you can see how beautiful that stuff is. It just really makes a nice image. So we're going to go ahead and turn this press off because we're done with this one. And I'm going to move you back over to the workstation, and we're going to turn on the tumbler press and get it heating up while we finish these boxes and get them ready for packaging. So let me just hurry and heat this up. It takes it a minute to So I'm just turning this up just a little bit. Flip this back over to Fahrenheit. What I have found about these is that they're super, super touchy. So give me just a minute while I All right, we'll just let that heat up and then we'll come back to it. Sorry, you guys. Like I said before, I can't run both items because my printer or they just put out too much. They put out too much electricity. All right, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clean up these edges. So again, I've got my X-Acto knife. I'm just going to clean up these edges of the cardboard. so that it's ready to, so any of this that's sticking out, I'm just going to take off so that it's ready for the glue. You've got a variety of glues you can use. I'm going to just put down a really light layer of hot glue, but you could use E6000, super glue, any of that would work, just as long as it's a permanent thing. So go ahead and pop your bottom. And then we're just going to put a really light layer of glue here on this tab. See how fast that heats up? So I am using a Single J's tumbler press. They heat up so fast, I love them. I'm just going to make sure that there's no pieces of box sticking out. And then just make sure that my bottom is secure. And sometimes what I'll do with my tumblers too, just because I'm a little bit fanatical about it, I think, but I will put a little piece of packing tape over the bottom of my tumbler, the openings, just to make sure that it doesn't slide at all. Particularly if you're shipping them, I like to make sure that I've kind of taken an extra measure so that they don't fall, that the boxes keep them secure. So you can see it's got my whole image on it and how cool that looks. So that's what I like about this whole thing, is just the presentation. So now when I close this down to put my tumbler in, then I would put my sticker right there. And ideally you would trim it a little bit different. Clearly my transfer was too big, so you trim it down so that it came down flat, or you could, if you so desired, cut your image so that it is comes across the top of your cup as well as the top of your lid. You can, so as you can see, there's no laminate on there, so you could, it's just going to be a lot more dull, particularly like his eyes. I hand drew this tiger, and I really wanted to make sure his eyes stood out, and so I really like the laminate because they just help that pop. So we're going to do the same thing with our mug template. So what I'm going to do with that is we are just going to put some glue right here. And it just needs to be, it doesn't need to be a ton, just a little bit. And then just fold it down and put that right over the top. So as you can see, none of the kind of mess that we had made when we were cutting, none of it's visible, which I do love. And then this one, we're going to do the same thing. And then just slide them together. So same kind of idea, just a thin layer. You can see where that is going to overlap. So you're just going to follow that as a guide. And then this one, slides in. Right like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to just glue along this edge. And this is what I was talking about with trimming. So right here I've got a little bit of my laminate, and what I'm going to do is use my X-Acto knife just to peel that off. Come up with a pair of scissors. I've just found that the X-Acto knife's a little bit easier just to follow that edge. But you don't need to take a ton off, just so that it's not hanging over onto the rest of your image on the other side. And then you can just go and press with your finger down the middle seam to make sure that it's nice and secure. Now you've got your coffee cup box all ready to go. So there's your image of what is on your coffee mug. Like I said before, I will say this, the coffee mugs the boxes are a little bit harder, but still very doable, and a really good presentation. So this is going to be the same idea as with the other side. We're just going to glue that tab down. But I want to make sure that this isn't going to be in the way. So either fold it or just take it off. Folding it might be a little bit easier to keep it pinned down. And then I would probably just put a little tiny glue. Make sure that your glue goes over to the edge and maybe even under where it's, just so that it makes sure that that's going to lay down flush and not look unsightly. So like I said, the coffee cup, the tumbler boxes are a lot easier to do. But I guess there's pros and cons to that too, because I sometimes don't feel like they're as secure on the bottom as I would like. So then put them nice and neat back together. And then I am going to put that extra piece of packing tape on the bottom so that I make sure that, particularly if it's in transit, if you're shipping, that it stays nice and compact, that it's not going to get messed up, so it's not going to damage your tumbler inside. And then I'm just going to put a little bit more glue along this seam because it's not wanting to stick as much as I would like it to. So, and there is a little bit of a bubble right there with the glue, and that's okay. We're going to take that off once we're sure it's good and solid. The most important thing is to make sure that your seam's going to stay together. So once that's solid and that glue's not hot anymore, we'll go ahead and pull it off, and you won't even see it. So then just make sure you clean up if there's any, if you are using hot glue, just make sure there's not any strings, but then you can see how nice that box looks. So a good way. Another way I've packaged tumblers before is you can get ribbon, tie your card with it. But to me, it doesn't look as finished as this does. But that still is going to dress it up so that it doesn't look quite so plain. So there's your box. All right, let's go over, and I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret. I have done many times the mugs in the tumbler or in the oven. And I've done several tumblers in this, but I have not done coffee cups. So I'm going to just make sure my pressure's good. And with this, you're going to want to make sure that you have 2 coffee mugs at a time. You don't have to have images on them. Just put a regular coffee cup in, but make sure there's 2 of them. And then I need to loosen up my pressure just a little bit. There. All right. So I wanted to check that ahead of time. And then let's go and talk about measuring for our mugs. So I do my designs a little bit bigger, just to make sure that whatever size you're using it's going to work for. So you might need to size up, size down. That's easy enough to do in any of the design, any of the software, Silhouette, Photoshop, any of them. But then I'm going to measure. So this is a full wrap design. So I'm going to measure from top to bottom. I don't want it to overhang at all. So I would say 3.9 inches for the height. And then I want to go all the way around, and I'm going to keep it at the top so that I know that I'm straight and getting an accurate measurement. And I don't want to have to fight, because you're not going to get underneath the handle with this. And so I am going to do 8 3/4. So I'm going to do 8.8 inches on that. And that's what I sized my image for. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my image, and I don't want it to hang over. So I'm going to take off just a hair. In the tumbler press, you do not want your image to bend at all or hang over, because it will actually create more problems and you won't get a good outcome. So Jacqueline from Single J's has a bunch of videos on her site as well. So I'd encourage you to check that out. And she also now has the attachments to be able to do shot glasses, all of that stuff. And then just make sure again that your image is the correct way. And I'm happy with that. So I am just going to go ahead, and you don't need to like tape the crap out of it. That's what I love about the tumbler press. Because I spent so much time trying to prep my tumblers. Just cut that off. Trying to prep my tumblers, and it was just so much time. And then I'm going to do the same thing with this one. And I'm going to try not to be redundant on our lives, but I am going to be honest. A lot of these I've done with my own, I've spent my money for the lives, and that's not super conducive. So it's going to be geared a lot to the products that I have and the items that I've got to finish for my finished products customers. So hopefully it won't be too redundant. I know I've never done a live on tumblers and mugs, so this is a new one. And with the mugs, you do not have to. With the tumblers, you do have to rotate. With the mugs, you do not. So let me hurry, and I did not take that into account. So let me hurry and just change. I don't know what it's doing. It doesn't like me for a minute. And I need it for 180 seconds. Okay. All right, you guys, we'll let it do its magic and say a little prayer to the sublimation gods that it will turn out. Like I said, this is my first time doing mugs with this. Come here. Dan? Dan, he's coming down. So with these, you want your time, you want it set at 370 and then 180 seconds. And it is going to vary just a little bit. I did preheat them a little bit, but it still cools down when they get in there. So hence the longer time. And then make sure you use sublimation, the heat gloves to take this out because they are super, super hot. So make sure you use the gloves to keep it from burning yourself. And then the tumbler is going to be the exact same way. So let's go ahead and prep that while we are waiting. You measure the tumbler the exact same way. So when I do my tumbler, I also don't want it to hang over the top. I don't want it to hang over the bottom. Oh, I am struggling with my camera this time. It's a little bit odd because I'm using a different streaming device, and so it doesn't make it the full page, and so it's a little bit odd. But what I wanted to show you is when I take this down, see that seam will be right together. I don't want it to overlap, and I don't want to overlap the top or the bottom. So I'm going to get one all taped up, and then I'll show you the next one while we're waiting for this one. Gosh, I love this press so much. So you can see my mug. There's the front, comes over. There's this other side, and I have a piece of tape still stuck there, so I can get that off of there. You can see my gradient looks great. My lines look great, and it is a nice sharp image. So much easier, you guys. I wish I could tell you how much I love the tumbler press because it saves so much time. So there's my second one. I can get my kitty in there. And there's the tiger. So both of those came out great. Let's go ahead and set it up for the tumbler. So I'm going to get one that's not started to be wrapped. And the tumblers you do a little bit differently because so we're going to leave that at 170, but I am going to adjust my time down to 50 seconds, and I'm going to rotate it halfway through. And it's going to yell at me the whole time. And I just want to check and see where I'm at on my pressure. I need to go just a little bit tighter. And this is a 30-ounce skin, or a 30-ounce truly straight tumbler. And it gets hot really, really quick. So I'm going to bring you over and we're going to talk about wrapping them. So as you can see, I'm having little to no hangover at the top and same at the bottom. And all I'm going to do is tape that seam. All right, that's all I'm going to do. And we're just going to pray this comes out good. If not, we learned something, right? So I'm going to go ahead and slide this in, and I just want to make sure. And I always like to have my tape to start at the top because then I know where to rotate. So I'm going to go ahead and close it, let it go for 50 seconds, and then we'll rotate it. Tumblers still give me, I've got a little bit of PTSD when I work with tumblers and mugs because I've had so many not turn out well. But as you can see from this mug, just beautiful image through the top and the bottom. So a lot easier, my friends, a lot easier than the convection oven, in my opinion. And as I also say in every live, just because it's my opinion certainly doesn't mean that it's right. So I'm going to move this down so that my tape is on the bottom, and then I'm going to let it go for the next 50 seconds, and then we'll pull it out of there. But for me, I had all but given up doing tumblers and mugs just because I was so frustrated with them. But I do get a fair amount of customers that want them. And so this machine was a godsend for me. So go to Single J's. And they have buy-ins where you can get them a little bit cheaper. You have to wait for them to come in, but they are a bit cheaper than if you buy off the Ready to Send site. But great customer service. You know, I talk about Single J's a lot, and really appreciate their product. So I do like their tumbler press a lot. All right, now we're going to pull this bad girl out and let it cool for just a second because it's super, super hot. Try to grab this with my fingernail and not get burned. I am the least patient person alive. I will tell you that much. So I could have done a little bit better on my seam, but overall I'm happy with that. So if you can see, here's my full tiger head. What I do want you to notice is the bottom and the tops, which have always been a huge issue for me. But with this tumbler press, you follow the directions, it just isn't an issue. So very, very happy with my tumbler press. So I would strongly suggest this. We're going to let this guy come over here and cool as well. And let's go ahead and get our other one ready to go. So this one I'm going to be a little bit more cautious. I'm going to be just a little bit more cautious with my placement of the seam and make sure I don't want them to overlap, but I do want them to come together so there's not a gap. I guess I should say you don't want them to overlap more than like 0.1 of an inch. I'm sorry, you guys, you're not even seeing what I'm doing. So as you can see, there is just a very, very slight, like 0.1, like a tenth of an inch. Very, very small. And again, I don't have an overlap on my bottom or my top, because then you get, what happens is the paper tries to fold over and you end up with bubbling. And that's what creates those white areas that we all know and love. So I'm going to just put a couple here along the seams, just where I'm noticing a little bit of bunching. And then it's ready to go. So much faster than the time that I used to spend prepping my tumblers to go in the convection oven. Not that the convection oven is wrong. I don't want you to get that. For those of you that use it and that are successful in it, good on you. I am so proud of you. I just was not at all. I wasted more tumblers and more money than I can even tell you about with the convection oven. But if there is someone in the group that's phenomenal with the convection oven, then by all means reach out to me and let's see if we can get you to do a tutorial for us. But I am not that person. So we're going to go for another 20 seconds, then we'll rotate it. And again, try to, so that's why I like to put my tape on top, is so that I have a very clear marker of where I need to rotate it to so that the whole tumbler is getting pressed. So it starts to alarm at 3 seconds to tell you that it's close. And then we're just going to open it up and turn that to the bottom. And then go another 50 seconds. But now that this one's cold, I can kind of show it off a little bit more. I don't know if you guys saw it posted in the group, but a lady did this on a glow-in-the-dark tumbler, and it looked awesome. So there are some options. I know Lindsay from J&L Sublimation Blanks has glow-in-the-darks. Jackie with Single J's has glow-in-the-dark blanks, as well as the 30 straights. Lindsay, I believe, has the 20s. Jacqueline also has the 20s, and then Marvin also has. So lots of options to support that you can get your tumblers from. And this one's not peeling up nearly as nicely without me burning myself, so we're going to give it a minute. You guys, I'm the least patient person in the whole world. Anyone that knows me well knows this. So let me place that over here for a minute and get rid of this paper. And then you can see how good it looks. Flip it around, it's still pretty hot. So I'm happy with my tumblers. So let's go ahead and get them ready to package so you guys can see the finished product. Move some of this junk out of the way. So I'm going to go ahead and just apply my bottom. Right now, this one's still a little bit too hot, so we're going to wait for just a minute for that one. All right, you can see how good that pressed. And here is my box for that one. And then let me grab the straw for it as well. And then I usually will just put my straw. So the one thing I do not like about the tumblers is the straw, so I'll usually put it in the box right next to it since it doesn't fit. Or this is where I would so you've got your box, nice and neat. And tell me that doesn't increase the presentation value. All right, you guys. So, and then let me get this one put in with the mug. And then usually what I will do with my mugs and my tumblers is I actually like to put pieces of chocolate in them or something. And so I will add that as well. And then I'll make sure my logo stickers on the top so that I have my branding. So there you go. I hope that was helpful for you and that you learned some ideas that can help you kind of stand out with your product, with your packaging and whatnot. And I look forward to next week's tutorials. Throw your comments in, or your comments and your questions in the comment section, and I am so happy to answer. I'll make sure all of them get answered. Also remember to do hashtag wall to wall or hashtag replay for the next 48 hours so you can get your freebie. Thanks so much. Have a great night.